Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of State of Finclusion. We have today a very interesting topic, uh, which was triggered by our friends at Microsave. Actually, we were influenced by their recent publication on the savings in Vietnam and the impact to the rural and lower income population. And then we understood that actually we have something to say about this and share our perspective on the whole potential of Vietnamese market and its readiness for disruption through financial technology. So low and moderate income people, which live on less than $10 a day, represent actually 70% of Vietnamese population, which is probably covering around a 50 million adult population. And savings, when they're actually used and executed, are usually managed almost exclusively through informal channels. And along with the micro and nano SMB and farmer lending market, this presents a very interesting opportunity on a very massive market for the smart financial operators equipped with the right technology and the team to execute it. So we have here today two colleagues of ours from Radian, both involved in business development in Southeast Asia. We have David Hovhannisyan and Tony Pham. Both are very well suited for today's talk because David in a previous life used to be a banker in Vietnam, so he has seen quite a lot of things and the evolution of the market. While Tony, being Vietnamese and involved heavily in Southeast Asia market with the Radian and also as throughout Vietnam, can share a bit about his findings and what he finds daily in the market and experiences and insights that he can share with us. So, David, good morning. And
Good morning.
could you share with us, kind of in a nutshell, what do you think is the overall situation on the Vietnamese financial market, in particular regard to a low and moderate income population?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So, look, Vietnam is a country with around 100 million population and largely monopolized, let's say, with commercial banks. There are state-owned big banks. There are private joint stock banks, banks of foreign branches of foreign banks in the country, as well joint banks between two countries, etc. And in the cities, generally, you see all the brands, basically, right? So it's very common when the bank is covering, like from south to north, in all cities, having branches, and you see the maps covering all the countries, etc. But when we talk about lower and low and moderate income population, there are around 69% of the population actually are having no or limited access to finance. So the commercial banks for 100,000 people actually offer around 4 ATMs. So you can imagine the access to finance of this population, especially in rural areas, are I would say really limited, right? Also talking about other players in the country, again, when we talk about country around 100 million population, there are 51 non-bank financial institutions.
Okay.
There are about 16 financing companies, some P2P lenders, right? MFIs, in my view, bit limited number. As
Mm-hmm.
well, I think it's about 7 digital banks. So we can imagine that generally this wide coverage of financial services providers are actually covered by big commercial banks and not other players.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying that since there's a big hunger in the market for these services, there's still definitely room for new innovative players to enter and let's say do the things which are currently done in one way a bit better at a better rate and provide a better service to the hungry market.
Certainly, I believe so. So particularly on saving side,
Mm-hmm.
so these people are generally saving about like 60% of them are saving, yeah, generally
Okay.
saving, not in informal financial institution, but they save, let's say, in other assets or they save at home.
Mm-hmm.
And only 14% of the savers are actually saving with a formal financial institution.
Okay.
That means, so which is for the information for the audience, which is about less than half in in comparison with other Southeast Asian countries. So
Mm-hmm.
Southeast Asian countries, in average, they are having 31% of this
Okay.
population
Okay.
saving with formal
Okay.
institution, but in Vietnam it's less than, so it's 14% basically. So you can imagine there is a potential there.
Well, there is still 86 left percent.
Right.
So definitely a big opportunity for anyone that would like to tackle it. And can you see from what I hear? I would guess that there are many similarities between the markets of, for example, Vietnam, Philippines, and Indonesia, and in many respects. And Tony, could you maybe share your perspective on that, on the similarities of these markets and whatever pertinent way?
Sure, Rube. Yeah, so I think there are a lot. I mean, as there would be with a lot of as they share with a lot of emerging countries, a lot of barriers to financial inclusion. For example, lack of services catered to the low income communities. Access is difficult. There, just like David mentioned, there just aren't a lot of branches, and customers have to travel very far to go access these services. So a lot of times it's just not worth it for them. Low wages, I think this is a issue
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of emerging markets. In Vietnam, the average monthly salary is $150, and out of which they maybe can save $50. And so with a lot of these traditional financial institutions, they might have maintaining balances of $50. So it's just, as you can see, not a very practical options. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity. I think with the advent of new technology, there's a lot of opportunity to create services for this demographic.
Okay. Okay. Uh, what about some of the core differences between these three markets? For example, if a company or conglomerate was trying to provide financial services on all three of these very, very lucrative and interesting markets, what are some of the differences that might impact it, and that they should definitely be aware of? Somebody that is going after the Vietnamese, Indonesian, and Philippine market, for example. David, can you maybe?
Yeah, sure. So, Ruben, I think the role of the central banks, right, and so regulator is definitely something that a player A should consider when planning to
Mhm.
go to this markets, while not commenting what's the reason and what's the process, where is easy to get a license or not easy to get a license. I believe every central bank has its own policies and reasons while they're issuing the license. But from higher level look on these markets, I think number of institutions it per se to me is saying something about easiness to enter the market, right? For example,
Yeah.
Vietnam, generally there are 16 finance, there are around 30 commercial banks, and as
Okay.
I mentioned, like around 51 non-financial, non-bank financial institutions, right? But for example, in the Philippines, there are about, just not talking about the commercial banks, there are about at least a few hundreds of rural banks. There are around 3,800 credit cooperatives, right?
Wow.
There are about 3,000, more than 3,000 financing
Mm-hmm.
companies. The thrift banks market, right? There are, rural area is well covered, right? In
Mm-hmm.
a number of institutions. For example, another example, when we talk about Indonesia, so just rural banks in Indonesia are around 1,400. And just not talking about big financial, like
Okay.
commercial banks, rural
Okay.
banks, and then cooperatives, few thousand, right? So to me, these numbers are actually saying something about easiness of getting a license. From my personal experience involved in the Vietnamese market, I remember that financial institutions were rather avoiding to engage in more central bank related activities like opening new branches, opening a financing company, financing arm, different related entity, etc. But they rather define a different brand.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and under that brand, for example, in one branch, you might see one brand under the same license is serving SME clients, another
Mm-hmm.
brand is serving household businesses, another purely for consumer lending, right? But in the report, you see all of them are related.
Okay. Okay.
So there is another way. However, right? I mean that we are talking about countries like 100 million, 120 million, and Indonesia it's 270 million people population countries. So people finding ways to cooperate, and we found out that particularly for Vietnam, so there is a common practice of partnership with financial institutions.
Mm-hmm.
In other countries, it's called financial brokerage, right? When I'm
Okay.
not holding a license to provide financial services, but I'm getting into partnership with a bank. So it's common thing. So you could imagine that accounting company or a law firm would go to the branch and would sign a contract with the branch manager. So whenever I send a customer to them for
Mm-hmm.
opening account or saving or for loan, so I will get a commission. So there are
Mm-hmm.
also institutions who are not just like one time getting fees for sending customers, right? But they are also having well-established business models, cooperating with factories, for example, right?
So it's much deeper.
Much deeper, yeah, well-established business. Sometimes even there are some applications, right? But in the website, it's transparently mentioned that we are not a financial institution per se. We are cooperating with partners as
Mm-hmm.
financial institution providers. So
Okay.
people find ways to operate. However, again, right, low number to me is a trigger that it's rather not so easy, or central banks are rather conservative while giving
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
licenses.
Mm-hmm. From what I hear,
Mhm.
it seems that in such a let's call it complex competitive landscape and market with a lot of mixed intertwined services, you would need a special type of technical system or a core system in order to mix and match those services to create different hybrid products, which are not all necessarily products that are classical financial products. So would you say that this is the case, that that now, in order to fully engage with that market and reap the benefits of the opportunity, you need a system that is more flexible than what an incumbent financial core system used to be?
Certainly, absolutely. So look, in every market, when you work, right, as a financial system, financial services provider, so the core is the need of the customer, right? Any market you
Yes.
target,
Yes.
agri market, household businesses,
Exactly.
SMEs. So the need of the customer is the key, right? So you need to
Exactly.
have a system which is at least matching features that the system that your market is in a need, right? And I'm not talking also about technology, availability of the system, right? Reporting tools to track and analyze your businesses as well. Having system uptime, have a disaster recovery, especially, unfortunately, Southeast Asia is a region when natural calamities are
Are
kind of
given.
constant thing, right? These financial institutions operating in that market, they are basically in constant crisis, so they have this immune system to live through these several crises over the time, right? So if you are targeting them and if you are playing in that market, definitely you need to have a strong technology to support your operations.
Okay. I'm of the same opinion there, and I believe that this is a crucial capability, if not the bare necessity of all the operators in that market. And during your time in Vietnam as a banker, could you share some of your, let's say, takeaways, maybe in particular respect with the street lenders, informal lenders? I believe they're called something like Camdo, but I'm sure Camzo. Okay, Camzo. And maybe some of your personal experiences there, coming to that market, seeing that which was obviously quite different than what you were used to. So some of your experiences and takeaways as a banker there.
Sure. Look, I mean, Vietnam, particularly Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh cities, are amazing. Like in terms of, it's a really kind of a, how to say, it's a heaven for SME segment, right? Like every street, you see a lot of shops, a lot of businesses, and no matter it's a rural, a bit district area or center, yeah, everywhere you see small businesses. And among those streets, right, you see often the shop with a big sign on it on private lenders. So household businesses, which are about 5 million registered household businesses, this is a form of taxation, let's say, that you basically pay one-time yearly tax. You need to have, I think, up to 10 employees, right?
Okay.
And basically, you don't issue VAT invoice, I think. So basically, but you can import and sell. You buy from suppliers and sell. So there are a lot of businesses on the streets, and I think there are about 25 million people are involved in these activities. So as commercial banks, due to some complexity of having a list of documents required for loans, etc., so this market is well targeted by street lenders, right, or collateralized daily pawn shops, if you may call them, right. From the experience, these interest rates are really high. And the payments are rather not flexible. So it is daily. So imagine that you borrow some money with high interest rate, and if the financial literacy is rather low, there is no really a system which is supporting concrete, like correct computations of interest, etc. It's rather like flat interest rate, high interest rate. You get $100, let's say, and you pay $200 after some time. And no one, and you, there are a lot of articles, right? You hear what is happening to people who don't pay. And from the insights from the market, people were really open to refinance this the debt with a formal financial institution. So when we were going on the markets, approaching businesses, the first thing you ask, like, are you, would you be willing to refinance your debt if we buy the loan from the street lender? That was like really well welcomed. And I'm not talking about the interest rate difference, right? I'm just talking about having formal
the service,
surveys, right? Rights and responsibilities of both sides. If there's something happening, it's a regulated relationship, right? There's a court, etc., etc. You don't deal personally, and you don't need to have that streetwise, right, to deal with these kind of operations.
Well, it sounds very, very interesting, and it seems like there actually, from what I hear, two main opportunities: the micro nano SMB market and the retail market, both ripe for disruption. Tony, sorry, I stopped you.
I'm sorry, Ruby.
No, I thought you were going to say something. No worries. So those would be the two main markets that I see as ripe for disruption or improvement, because the better service can be offered to the client. And I think there's another form of a financial service, informal one, the Hui type of arrangement or savings, and in the rural markets. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. That's another service, yes, as you mentioned, widely spread in the country. I think it's not only in Vietnam, but for example, in Eastern European countries, it's called financial lottery. So what is it? When a group of people, it can be 10 people, can be 5, can be 20. So we are engaging in a basically agreement, trust-based. So each of us are saving, not saving, it's contributing with some amount of money, let's say weekly, 1 million dongs, right? And everyone is having their turn. So I'm the first one, you are the second, colleague is the third, etc. So every week we are contributing with that money, and whoever is having a turn is basically taking the money and using. And next week is still continuing to contribute. So there is no interest on savings, and also there's no interest on that money as from the loans perspective, right? So from one side that might sound fair, right? It's a kind of an emergency loan / saving fund source, right? But in reality, there are a lot of challenges coming with that. So, for example, imagine that you are a street.
Well, I can think of one.
Okay. Look, I mean, you as a person, you need to deal at least with 20 individuals and making sure that they are paying on time, right? And you also need to kind of, when you are entering in a trust-based relationship, with all respect on trust on friendship, trust on relatives, behavioral punctuality, etc. But when the things are coming to money, often, like if there's a crisis, you need to have skills to assess well the credit worthiness of the person, right? So imagine if we are talking about financial literacy rate, lower, etc., you need to be able to assess 20 people and make sure that all of them are paying. So there are a lot of stories you hear that someone took money and ran away, or on the 10th of the turn, some person was having difficulties in the business and could not pay, so the turn was kind of disrupted, and other 19 people approached this one and asking, hey, pay money. So there are a lot of informal also collection activities, right? So yeah, there are a lot of challenges are coming to them, and again, people were really open to get over of that activity and look for another solution that would help them to save, to contribute, and to have access to that money whenever they need that, right? So sometimes, and one more point on that. So it's an obligation. You must pay all your terms, right? It's kind of that when you get the money, you need to pay. So it's coming in one hand is coming as a saving contribution, but on the other hand is really strict debt that you have to pay. So if there's something problem going on, you need to deal with a lot of informal challenges.
Okay, understood. There are some, let's say, less visible informal mechanisms that enforce the system to keep functioning. Understood. And Tony, you have maybe some cultural insights as well on why would the people change, the retail customers, from the Ho Hui to a more formal financial institution of whatever sort, whether a fintech, a bigger bank, or some kind of a rural bank lender slash financial institution that provides saving. What would be the trigger for them to switch to something more formal? From your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be good to look at why they're using that in the first place.
Yes,
I think it comes down to the factors that I mentioned before. I mean, there's not a whole lot of trust. There's not a whole lot of access because of education on financial literacy. They just don't feel secure. The country has known nothing but war for many generations. So a lot of people just prefer to be liquid. They don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think it starts there. So if there's an option that the population can, the low to moderate income population, if they can feel more secure, something that has more transparency, more security for not only them, but for both parties, right? For the reasons that David mentioned, if you can avoid having informal type of problems, then, I would like to pick that option. But at the moment, that option just doesn't exist. So, and I think that problem can be fixed with technology. So technology is going to make things faster. Things will be more secure. And I think with the efficiencies that you can gain from technology, these companies can also possibly offer better rates. So I think
which always helps.
Right, exactly. So I think there's a lot of room for more players. I think at the moment, one big problem is a lack of choices.
And would you envision in that respect that fintechs could take part of the market, or even more, and some fast, nimble financial institutions could take part of this market from the Ho Hui and execute well on this fast?
Absolutely. I mean, even if they can't take the entire market, at least there is room for more players in the market. I think with the large part of the population, and it's growing, having access to the internet, the government having invested a lot of money into internet infrastructure the past 10, 20 years. The result of that is mobile phone adoption is really big. So I think that's a really good avenue for companies to capitalize on, to gain access to these customers. And if they do, I think they can scale much more than an informal type of corporation like a Hohui can operate.
Cheaper and faster.
Right.
Yeah. And I believe once when we discussed, you said that the majority of the population is under 30, so that helps adoption of any new technology.
Right.
Okay. And when we talk concrete things, David, could you maybe mention a couple of pinpointed things that fintechs and finance providers need to offer in short terms to take over this untapped rural market? When it comes to technology, what would you do? What would be your core features that you would offer to go after this untapped rural market?
Sure. Look, for a saver and specifically for LME, right, low and moderate income population. So there are 4 important points that need to be covered while you are saving. So the security mentioned by Tony, right? In comparison for Hohui, we will cut this part. Sorry. So in comparison, Hohui interactions and fintech, yes, certainly there is a difference in terms of security, right? The second point is the convenience. So why commercial banks are not actually targeting these customers? Because the commercial banks, while maintaining branch, there's also cost coming with that, right? So you need to basically target. They target customers who are saving bigger monies. So these small savers are not basically interested. So what the financial institution could do to reach these customers, first of all, to be available for them, right? To be accessible. So that's the second important point for the saver, that whenever they want to save, they want this service to be accessible. So they need to, they want the provider to be around, not to travel a lot of distances for savings or withdrawals, not to, I don't know, have difficult, like a list of documents to collect in order to open account, right? So the accessibility, the paper requirements as well. The next important part is to have these features, right? Not to have difficult built-in stones features for small savers. For example, minimum deposit amount. So most of the commercial banks are actually having around like minimum saving amount around 1 million, which is like way far of the weekly saving of a person. So financial provider in this market need to cover these 4 parts. Accessibility, easiness of the operations, easiness of the features, not to have big amount. So saver can save with smaller amounts, can withdraw with smaller amounts, right? In any frequency, etc. And of course, let's not forget about the interest rates, right? So
yes, that's a very important topic.
Income population. So they also need to have a return on their investments while it's coming with accessibility and easiness of the products, etc. So higher interest rate could be a trigger also to reach these customers. So now what the institution need to have, first of all, yeah, that's good to say accessibility, etc. But you need to have actually right technology in order to cover that flexibility, accessibility, and easiness of the opening of the account and features, right? So you need to have a system in a way that is actually uptime, even working offline. So there are field officer applications, right? There are for the institutions who are, I don't know, working in so remote areas. Internet is really. Is it mine?
I think we'll
Okay.
cut out.
Okay. So technology is coming, and the system need to support also respective features for the saving accounts, deposit accounts, right? If we are talking about accessibility, here comes depends on region, it depends on area where you work. The field officer applications and agency banking is coming, which can be from the financial provider's point of view, less costly way of reaching your customers. When you're comparing building a branch or putting an ATM in one remote area, that could be a costly, right? But when you have an agency network, that could be a great solution. So your agent
at a lower cost.
At the lower cost, right? Your agent need to have an access to the system, and in every corner, basically in every village, you can have an agent, and just to pay a fee per transaction or monthly fee for that agent, so agent could have the transactions. One more point, not to underestimate. So people want to have everything instant, right? So the patience of the transaction nowadays is really low. So no matter it's an urban customer or a rural customer, any transaction you do now, you want to see the transaction is actually happening right this moment. So you need to have a system also which is supporting that functionality. So cloud technology is coming here as very welcomed. Then in very rural areas when there is no internet, so SMS communication is coming as a confirmation. So you do the transaction with the agent, you want to see a validation of your transaction right away. Repayment of the loan, deposit. So you need to see a confirmation from the system provider, financial service provider, that your deposit is there, your loan it has repaid.
Exactly.
We're talking about I'm not sure if this is my internet again. Sorry.
No, just continue. No worries.
So when we are talking about areas when the smartphones are widely used, right? So in that case, applications. So the customer does the payment, does the deposit. They want to see right away what's happening, the balance. So you as a service provider, yes, you can say, I want to be available, I want to be easy features, etc. But you need to have a technology to support that business goals. So if you don't have technology, that's going to be a major challenge.
Yes. And from you say, you mentioned a lot of times accessibility. I think this is a core feature, because accessibility is all about channels, whether they are physical or digital. And more, we are talking in digital world. The physical channel, the best one for me is the agency banking, because you get the best of being spread in the physical world without the necessary cost of that is associated with a classical branch. While in the digital world, you're mostly now the channels are switching to messaging, social messaging of whatever sort, whether we talk about WhatsApp or something that is very local to a certain market. For example, I think in Vietnam itself, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, a Coco talk was the thing, and it's something, let's say, obscure in other parts of the world or Southeast Asia. And in order to follow these trends, which can pop up from one day to the other, and to plug in this channel and to serve the customer in the same way, frictionless way as you would in other channels, you need a flexible system that allows you these fast integrations so that they're seamless for the end consumer. So, definitely a mix of physical and digital channels would be, the stuff of winners, but particularly having a core system that allows you to integrate something quickly, because trends change very, very quickly if you're talking about young people and the sub 30 year old population.
Right.
Okay. Tony, you've engaged with the market, with the Vietnamese market in terms of financial institutions, financial services for a while now. What have been, some of the players that you would mention that you have seen as particularly efficient or successful in the market?
So it's a competitive market.
Okay.
There's companies backed by incumbents, new players as well. So Zalo Pay is a good example, backed by BNG, Vietnam's first unicorn. Viettel Pay, state-backed, AirPay, which is backed by Shopee. The one that stands out the most is Momo.
Momo.
53% of the market is theirs, and by far they're the heavyweight in the market. And I think they've been able to do this because they focused on providing something that's very flexible, services that just the consumer needs at the moment, which is something that's flexible, accessible, easy, and something that they feel is secure.
Okay. And if you were entering that market yourself, which one would you look up to as to emulate?
Definitely Momo. I mean, they're the clear.
They must be doing something right.
They're the clear head. The clear winner there with over 53% market share.
Okay. So to kind of wrap it all, and since we've seen that the biggest opportunities are with micro or nano SMB lending, and let's say farmer lending, let's call them both micro SMB ones, and the retail market is also very, very ripe for offering new services at a better rate, with a better level of service and trust. Which one, from both of your perspectives, is a better opportunity, and maybe why? Shortly,
I can start. I think all of them are great opportunities. I think all have different unique needs, and I think that's why it's important that I think that's the beauty of cloud technology, is that if you have a flexible core system at your foundation, then you can build these services, have the flexibility to build these services on top of that, and tailor those services to the needs of the respective markets. On the retail side, I think that's a really great opportunity. There's a large young demographic in Vietnam. Over 50% of their 100 million population is a young demographic. They're optimistic. They're technology savvy. They're hungry for growth, and there aren't a whole lot of services. There are growing services, but I think there's still a lot more room to service their needs. And so I think that's a great opportunity.
Okay, your view, David?
I would say, look, I mean, it depends on your business model, right? And let's not also underestimate agro population of Vietnam. So there are regions who are widely focused on agro businesses, and there are banks and there are financial providers who are focused on that regions. And if we are talking about responsible finance, responsible finance means that you need to have also a social mission, not only, and you need to be sustainable, to be next to your customers every time, even during the crisis, right? So when we're talking about agro, particularly for Vietnam, South region rice producers, you as a service provider, if you are targeting that market, you need to be also having a regional presence. You need to have also respective skills. There's a debate, until now, whether AI-based approach scoring for SME financing and agro financing works or not, because in the end, the core is the entrepreneur skills of the nano business or micro business, right? Which is very
comes down to the person.
So there's always a personal relationship-based approach in financing. So if you are targeting that market, there is a big market, there is an opportunity, and you can have a good business as a financial provider and also be next to your customer. And I will second the point highlighted by Tony. Yes, specifically for agro sector, when you are targeting them, you need to have a great system to support their needs, because when we are talking about agro, it's first comes seasonality, ability to change the schedule if something happens. So you need to have a refinancing, prolonging, giving grace periods, have seasonal repayments, lump sum payments, etc. Right? These are all important features of the system that when you are targeting that customers, you need to have a system who is able to configure such kind of products that you can really serve customers. And I'm coming to the needs of that particular segment, right? So if the need of the customer to have a seasonal repayment and pay on the harvesting month, you need to have a system which supports that. As well, if there's any natural calamity, you need to have a system which is supporting, giving moratoriums, etc. So you
and being compliant at the same time.
Being compliant, exactly, because central banks are imposing new laws, forcing financial institutions to change their schedules, as we have seen in the Philippines. So system providers need to comply with that. So you shouldn't have a situation when your operations are your staff is really having hard time manually adjusting schedules, and you're just telling the client, because our system doesn't work, we are doing it manually, right? It's not a good service. And targeting that market, if you have the right skills and knowledge and system technology to serve that, why not? Rural market is also a very good market.
Okay. Look, so, we've heard a lot of things today. I mean, it could be called even a micro MBA in Vietnamese finance opportunity. And I'm actually tempted to go and register an online startup in Vietnam, and so I might be looking for 2 co-founders if you're available. But if we were to make a conclusion from what we've heard today, it's a definite opportunity for new entrants, and no one is actually late. And it's a definite opportunity even for the incumbents to go deeper into the market and provide a better service on top of something much more nimble and flexible. So if you have the system that can support you with just written down some bullet points like regulation, products that can be built fast on with cultural differences taken into consideration, and the habits of entrenched habits of the people, something that can help you even in a very competitive landscape, which is also about pivoting and iterating through product versions fast. One of the core features is that whatever you're building on top of can provide both the micro SMB, SME, and retail products and products for the farming community and that segment. Products that can enhance trust and extend the trust from the local communities into something more digital and less physically present, not completely physically not present, but less physically present, which lowers the cost through agency banking. A secure product, both from the terms of perspective of the user, do they feel secure with this finance institution, and the security on the technical side. Something that provides a better service in whatever respect, a frictionless, fast service, and something that provides accessibility,
Right.
better accessibility through many different channels, and the ability to launch products with low entry point, not too many requirements, whether from documents availability or from the funds at the moment of the acquisition of the customer. If you can tick all of these boxes, if you can tick even the half of those, and if you have the system that supports you tick even the half of those, it's a no-brainer to enter or extend your presence on the Vietnamese market and actually be very successful. With that being said, thank you very much. This has been a valuable lesson for me as well, and I think this will be one of our episodes that will be shared throughout the coming months. And guys, looking forward to working with you more, and thanks again for this. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.